The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back to Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata. Sterling Fox with you, joined by Tony Gioventu, the Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia. They are CHOA for short, and their website is choa.bc.ca. It is an absolutely excellent website if you're a strata owner, or particularly if you're a person contemplating that change in life. Downsizing into a condo is on your priority list. I highly recommend a visit to choa.bc.ca and get your teeth into some of the issues that you should be considering if you're thinking about purchasing a condo. And if you're already a strata person, then you probably are familiar with this website. Multiple offerings on all aspects of strata life. Now, Tony, we've been talking about these depreciation reports as mandated now. It's law in British Columbia as of about 4 or 5 months ago, but the requirement to have them all up and running and available to anybody in the province is still about a year and a half away. But already the smart strata councils are underway with their reports, aren't they?
Oh yeah, don't delay this. And the consultants in the industry, who, as I said earlier, are engineers, appraisers, certified reserve planners, they're providing estimates for doing the work for you at no cost. So just get out there and get a number of estimates.
Okay.
Start figuring out what the price is. For strata corporations who are not wanting to do this, you can exempt yourself. You will have to do it every year. You'll have to pass a 3/4 vote every year that you wish to continue to exempt yourself.
Now, is this a strata corporation of any size?
Any
size.
size.
You could be a 500-unit building?
Absolutely.
And decide amongst yourselves that we don't want to comply with it?
You'll have to pass a 3/4 vote at a general meeting each year.
Why then, I know, but
Yeah.
let me interrupt, because why would it benefit anyone not to have this valuable information these reports contain? What's in it for me to vote it down?
I've struggled to come up with an answer of that question of any value.
Okay.
I can see a number of liabilities for not doing it. The benefits of not doing it, I guess, would be on the surface, would be the sheer economics.
Paying for the darn thing to get put together.
Exactly. But a question I ask everybody is, when do most people replace their hot water tanks?
You've asked it on this program before, so I know the answer. When it breaks.
That's pretty much rule of thumb for every one of us.
Flood in your
We've
house.
all been through that, right?
Absolutely.
But that is probably one of the most compelling arguments why we need depreciation reports, because we don't need strata corporations to be deferring maintenance, repairs, and renewals till after things fail. It simply costs them more money. They're then faced emergency situations. They're at the behest of the contractors under an emergency to deal with a leak in a roof or a problem that's on the go. Strata squanders more money, and so not doing depreciation reports means you're not planning for renewals of the future.
And yet the government has allowed for this 75% vote of strata owners in any given situation to opt out. So the government has said, okay, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, provided you comply with this simple rule, a 3/4 majority, and you're out.
Yes.
But why would the government allow that sort of lack of information to go forward?
It was partly difficult in our province to introduce this at such a late date. It would have been easier if we'd been doing this when our industry was only 10 years old.
Okay.
But when you look at, we look at the concept that, the first 15 years are kind of the free years for a lot of strata corporations, right? Look at how many stratas are over 15 years that are facing major special levies, stratas that are in situations where the economics are such that they're just not going to do anything at this point. There may be stratas out there that are already saying, you know what, we're not going to do this. We're looking at a redevelopment option for our strata corporation as opposed to doing this. So there's some flexibility given, but getting a 3/4 vote to exempt yourself, I think, is going to be a challenge.
I would think so.
Especially when you consider...
It seems so counterproductive.
Well, and from a buyer's perspective,
if
you have a choice of buying into a 50-unit townhouse complex that has a report and you know what's coming down the road and you can see their bank accounts, so you have a sense of what the costs are going to be, or going across the street and buying blind with no information at all, and you have no idea of what you're facing in the future, what's your choice?
Well, and I think in addition, Tony, to the reality of these necessary maintenance and repairs costs that are going to be part of life in a condo no matter where you live. There's also the matter in terms of arranging budgets, and people on fixed incomes need these the security of these arrangements. We are at historic, all-time low interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
The only way interest rates in Canada can go is up. The governor of the Bank of Canada has been warning us for 2 years that they're going to go up, folks. So if you can, treat the current rates as a gift and organize yourself. So in addition to all of the other costs that a depreciation report will make available to not only an owner but also a prospective buyer, that allows you to also do the math and include the costs of higher borrowing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When you're looking towards there are two lines on an annual budget or on a graph that show as a building ages. The building ages, that line goes down,
Right.
and in the total opposite direction, the cost of maintenance, repairs, and renewals goes up.
Absolutely.
Right, and it's not going to decrease. It costs more. There's another part about the depreciation reports I think that a lot of people are overlooking. In addition to having an inventory of everything that the strata has to maintain and repair, the report also has to include an inventory of that a strata lot owner has to maintain and repair. That's limited common property, or that's common property that they're going to have to pay for future costs for. So things like alteration agreements where somebody's put in different windows or a bigger deck or things like that, or skylights where they've taken responsibility for the future. Those things also need to be itemized in the depreciation reports. So really for an owner, when I sit down and look at a depreciation report, I should have a pretty good window into what the next 30 years of my Strata Corporation's life cycle looks like.
Yeah. Don't you want that? Wouldn't it make sense to and you talked to, for example, now you were mentioning a situation in which a building will likely need to have that roof replaced in, say, 10 years for flat round numbers. And you mentioned, I believe, $380,000, which is not out of line. In fact, it's probably lowballing a roof replacement cost for a building. So if you know all of that's coming, and is the Strata Council required to have those funds on hand by the time the roof repair is needed? Are Strata Councils allowed to borrow money to make these repairs, or must they use cash flow from residents?
Well, the decision of money is a collective decision of the owners, not the council.
Oh, okay.
So whether they're going to contribute to their reserves in the long term to have the money there, or whether they're going to do it partly by special levy and partly by reserves, or maybe even borrow the funds, all those decisions come back to the owners.
So there is
decide.
that flexibility, though.
There's lots of flexibility, and the legislation at this time, because this has been a natural evolution in other parts of the world, is the legislation at this time doesn't have mandatory minimum funding levels, and it doesn't because we have so much disparity between new stratas and stratas that are literally 40 or 50 years old, and so there'd be no way of imposing a mandatory funding level without literally bankrupting some of the communities.
Sure.
It's going to take 5 to 10 years for the whole strata industry to kind of catch up and to start looking towards the future. By then, older buildings will have major renewals done, so they essentially start looking like a new building again.
Well, the link between the buyer and acquiring the property typically is the real estate agent.
Yes.
How educated and up to speed, on average, is the British Columbia real estate community with respect to these depreciation reports as better and more information to pass along to potential buyers?
Well, they are certainly well versed and well educated, and you can see the property purchase disclosure statement now that the BCREA has actually includes a checklist item is a depreciation report available.
Okay, so
for
they're
this
getting
building,
there, right? Okay.
Oh, certainly, they're on the stream of educating, but they're not the people who interpret the guide, the report. Once you get the report in your hands, there are two changes that are happening. One change is already happened is that on a Form B now, that information certificate you request from the strata must include a complete copy of the depreciation plan. So if it's several hundred pages, it's several hundred pages.
And that's what you get.
That's what you get. And
Okay.
the Strata Corporation will charge you 25 cents a page per copy, and that's the price of doing business. It's the most valuable document you'll probably get from the Strata Corporation.
Money well spent.
Money well spent.
All
The
right.
other change that's happening on disclosure is on January 1st, 2014, you're now going to also have to include how parking and storage lockers are allocated on the forms. So that's still a year and a half away, but I'm alerting Strata corporations across the province. Start getting your parking plans and your storage locker plans together, because come January 1st, 2014, when you do this Form B, you're going to have to be telling buyers how their parking and storage is allocated.
So lots more paper to push for the strata councils of British Columbia, but from the point of view of the buyer, this is really creating a scenario where the more information available to you, the more likely you are to make a good, informed decision.
Absolutely. And it's forcing strata corporations to operate like a business.
Tony Gioventu is the executive director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia, CHOA.bc.ca. I'll get that executive thing right before the next show. I'm Sterling Fox. Thank you for joining us this time around on Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata.